And welcome to Soul House Yoga Retreat. We are in Northern Maine. Oh, this is my New York location, New York City. We are in Northern Maine. And yesterday, for the first time in my entire life, and I've had this issue with my feet probably close to 50 years, I went to a podiatrist. The reason I went to the foot doctor really wasn't because of this issue that a lot of my students over the years I've noticed have. It was for something else. And as we had a really wonderful conversation, he said, "Do you have a card?" Because I was telling him about the different things that I do for my bunions. So I wrote a memoir that was released in 2019, and the title was Balancing with Bunions. So many people do not realize that is a memoir about my yoga journal, my yoga journey. That is not a book about bunions. However, I felt it was a metaphor because the title I wanted, which was Someday, was taken by a well-known actress. And I thought that was a good metaphor for what life is, that we're always trying to balance and untie the knots in our life. And that's to me what yoga is. That said, a few years ago, I did go to a workshop, he made me think of this, that was specifically for yoga and bunions. And he said to me, "You should really capitalize on this." And I said, "Well, I don't know about capitalizing on it, but I do have a little YouTube channel. And at this point, as I'm recording this, about 800 followers. And that workshop that I went to years ago was jam-packed, filled with women. For some reason, mostly women, though I think men can get this too, that had bunions, and many of them were like mine. Mine, I started getting in my 20s. I'm not a dancer. No, it's not from dancing. I am a runner, but my mother and my grandmother and my sister, who was 12 years older than me, none of them were any of those things. They can be hereditary. People say it can be from wearing heels or from running. Whatever it is, people get bunions. I'm talking a little bit more about the topic today because I think it's a topic, if you're interested about it, that this talk might help you. I've been teaching yoga now about 40 years. So often I will have students come up to me and say, "Don't those hurt?" Or, "I have a great surgeon. I had the bunion surgery." Then when I talk to people about the bunion surgery, sometimes the bunions have grown back, and sometimes their other toes can't spread very well. So as a yoga instructor, I want to go for as much mobility as I can, though I will tell you that the mobility has decreased because of where my big toe is moving, and then I can't ground my big toe as much as I used to, and then I can spread the toes out. So I'm going to show you some ways to do that if you have bunions, and that is what I suggest that you keep doing. I asked this doctor, and I got the same answer as my sister, who got her answer years ago from her podiatrist. If your bunions don't hurt and you're only doing it for vanity purposes, go ahead and do it for vanity purposes. Believe me, I don't love having deformed looking feet. This is what I do for a living, is go barefoot. But if your feet are not hurting, then it is not recommended to get the surgery. Sometimes it can, however, I think affect the balance a little bit as the foot moves in. So my balance is pretty darn good at this recording. I am 70 years old and I'm still doing a lot of balancing on my arms and my legs, even though my body has changed. So the first thing I would say is to see what I can still do. I don't know if you can see it, but I'm putting my big toe on the floor and lifting my other toes up and spreading them. What I can't do anymore, actually, I don't know if I ever could because I've had bunions for so long. Another good one, if you don't have bunions yet, you just want to work on your foot and you're looking at this out of curiosity because your toes are very important and your feet. See if you can press the four toes down and lift up the big toe. Now I'm doing that by holding them down and lifting the big toe. But these are both things you can do, and often taught at the beginning of a class standing. I've done that. Just showing you because I'm seated right now and I wanted to show you a few other things. I have on happy toes. Will any of these things fix the bunions? No. I had a man that I taught insist on the fact that he had used these little toe spreader things and they had stopped his bunion. If so, more honor to him. My doctor yesterday agreed that there was really nothing I could do to stop them. And he said, "How have they changed?" I said, They have gotten bigger. So even though they started in my 20s, I have really large bunions. My right bunion is a little bit larger than the left, and I have noticed, so that is a predominant side of my body, that my foot will turn in more easily, particularly if I'm working to balance on the one leg. So work on it, right? Just keep working on it. Here is one of those contraptions that you put around your toe and you spread the toes out and bring the bunion out. I'm sorry, the toe out that's connected to the bunion. And will that correct it? Well, they claim it will. I don't think so. Is it good to stretch your toes? Absolutely. I often say in my classes when I'm teaching, we can use our feet like our hands, but we don't. And I often refer to two clips. I think I saw them maybe both on YouTube. One was a young Asian fellow who was cutting vegetables with his toes with a knife, putting them into a fry pan, not his foot, putting the vegetables in, and then cook this meal. It reminds me of years ago when I did my master's in nutrition and I was doing something, and there was I was doing research on cholesterol actually, and there was a man who was Asian who could do the same thing with his chopsticks. So this man would go right to his last kernel of rice. Well, this fellow was using his foot like we would use our hand to prepare our meals. The second one might have been a woman who had no or one arm, because I think she was driving. And I don't remember if she was driving with her foot, but she was using her foot, and I think she could even put it up to her face to put on makeup. I know that sounds weird, but the point is, I worked in classes with young people. I say young, like people in their 20s, and just say, can you spread your toes? So that's where we're going to start, is can you spread your toes? What poses can you spread your toes? Well, let's look at Paschimottanasana, classic forward bend, because I can't be doing this throughout my whole yoga practice. It doesn't make sense. But in some of the poses, it does make sense. Pashi is one of them. So Paschimottanasana is your seated forward bend. So here, and you can, a nice thing about a yoga strap is you can vary the length. If you don't have a yoga strap, then you could use a big rubber band. That could work, right? And so anyway, here I'm going to do this on my big toes. I'm going to pull it pretty tight in this configuration. And then I don't know if you can see my toes well, depends on what size screen you have, but I am pulling my big toes in and my other toes away. And this is fantastic because this is what I would like to be doing with my feet in every standing pose if I could. Most people do not spread their toes, but I see some students that have inherently spread toes. And so everybody's foot is different, but our feet are our foundation. So as below, so above, and we really want to keep them healthy. In Chinese medicine, they also say that we die from our feet up. So sadly, people with diabetes often will have problems in their toes and in their feet, right? First in their circulation. So we want to keep that going. So a couple other poses that I use this in, which might help you. Downward facing dog, right? So there I want that to be a little bit wider. Now, in downward facing dog, you want to approximate being about hip distance apart, right? So I'm going to go and put my feet into downward facing dog and see if you can see this. Boop, 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 boop. So there I am. My feet are about hip distance. I'm going to do a puppy pose because I'm not that long on my mat here. So I'm going to fold over, walk my hands out. Puppy just means a short down dog, right? I'm going to be in a short down dog. And what I'm doing is the same thing I was doing in Pashi. You may not be able to see it, but I'm grounding my big toe down, spreading my other toes out, and then I am really in my foot, just like you're really in your hand. Feel the arch of your foot, and while you're here, feel the arch of your hand. Now I'm going to come back, and one more pose that I use this in. I was looking at the camera angle before I turned this on, and it won't really work to do a full shoulder stand because you will not see my feet. Again, I'm going to show you what this looks like on the camera because I don't think you can necessarily see it in the pose, but I want you to see how I do it in the pose. So here I am. I've got the yoga strap on and I am pulling my toes. They are separated, right? They are separated. And I am pulling my big toe away from that second toe. And you have bunions for many years, or you're just starting to get bunions, or you're somewhere in between. the big toe is going to start to move in, and sometimes will become a hammer toe, which I really think yoga can avoid because I don't have a hammer toe. And I've heard from other people that they do who are older than me and have this. So I'm still working on not getting the hammer toe. I bet some people younger than me also have the hammer toe. Okay, last pose that I'm thinking of, be creative. Think of what other poses you could do this, or just do it when you're watching Netflix or something, or watching YouTube, whatever. So you're going to come onto your back. Now, shoulder stand is not what I'm teaching, but it is here on my channel, and you can find that easily anywhere. Shoulder stand, you go up on your shoulders. I often do this in shoulder stand. It feels so much fun in shoulder stand. Now, guess what else I do? I don't use my strap necessarily. It's pretty fun. I'm in shoulder stand, and I can do this on one side. I can get my right foot inside the inner left foot, and I'm pulling it apart, and my toes are spreading. I'll show you that on camera. I can't do it. Proprioception means kind of like our body's perception in space. I can't do my left foot over my right. It's very, very interesting. It doesn't work. But I can put my right foot on top of my left, and then my right big toe is inside my left one. I know this feels and sounds weird, but this is for people with bunions, and we want to spread our toes. It's really important. And when I'm up in shoulder stand, I often don't have the strap. Actually, usually I don't have the strap, but you can just do it with a strap, or if that works for you, if your body can grab like mine can, then you can grab it. And so here are some tips for bunions. I'm going to give you the last one that I told the doctor about, and I think maybe that's when he realized, oh, I have some tidbits here. And I told him that I used to be able to do this posture with great discomfort, and I was able to do it, but it was painful for what? My bunions. It is no longer painful for my bunions at all. And so that's why we should not necessarily steer away from pain in our yoga practice. We should work with it and see where we can go with it. Okay. So that does not mean injuring yourself. That means the kind of pain that is in there because you are in a pattern, or you're holding stress there, which is why I went to the doctor. It's the craziest thing, but I just got off a run of my one-woman show in New York City for the first time, and something where I had dropped something on this foot a few years ago was hurting. I noticed the bone was larger, and he said that, you know, it either is extra bone growth or a little ganglion cyst. So I got my pain figured out, but it kind of stopped after the stress of doing this heartwarming, worthwhile, well-received performance happened. But anyway, interesting how we hold things in our body. So we hold stuff in our body, and my bunions did not like this when I first started doing it. Now when I teach this in New York or up in Maine, a lot of times students can't come all the way up and they don't have bunions. So I imagine this is a big stretch for everybody. If you can get your back straight, you are spreading your toes, and it just is it goes into just your foot, your whole foot. If you have plantar fasciitis, that can be painful. Can you stretch it? And for all of us, it's stretching the bottom of the foot and really stretching the toes and the joints of the toes. And so that's just a really good one if you've ever taken yin yoga, where we're going to get into the connective tissue and the fascia. That is one we'd like to teach in yin yoga. Now I am flattening my toes out. And I'm actually on a bolster because the tops of my feet, as I mentioned, I dropped stuff there a few years ago. Each one of them, I'd never dropped anything before. And so I like to just sometimes have some softness there. Also, I think as I've gotten older, I like having softness because when I'm on the top of my head doing headstand, I used to be able to do it on a wood floor, no problem. But within it's been a while, 10 years or so, I would take, you know, the yoga mat, fold it over a blanket, and now I use these blankets. I've just finished doing some practice here and did my headstand for my 5 minutes and whatever. So, okay, so that is what I can think of right now about bunions. And they are not harmful. They are just a bone growth that some people get, and a lot of times it is hereditary. And the last thing I'm going to say that I could remember from the students who've come up over the years is oftentimes they'd come up and ask me if they hurt. And I'm very lucky because they don't hurt. And they would have small bunions and they would say, oh, they're painful. That is when you definitely want to go to a podiatrist, because anything in your body that is so painful that you can't function, you need to address it, and then that's up to them to decide what you need. I think a lot of those people with pain, any kind of pain, back pain, shoulder pain, whatever kind of pain, it gets to the point, hip pain, where you're better off talking to the doctor and seeing what they can do for that surgically. That is not what I'm talking about today, but just because a small bunion can hurt, if anything's hurting in a continual way, and these stretches are not making it feel better, definitely go see a wonderful podiatrist like the one I saw yesterday. Okay, so I hope that some of you people out there that have bunions and want to stretch them and keep your feet as healthy as possible for as long as you're here, will find this and will watch it, because it's a very niche thing, and yet a lot of people have bunions. All right, have a great day and good luck balancing with your bunions.